Chapter 1171, A Trial. You're not qualified to know who my master is. Tangin replied indifferently while still kneeling. All you need to know is that you must stay here and wait for the Grand Master's arrangement. I'll take you to see my master if he doesn't want to pick up a sweet hot potato like you. Incredulity filled the saint's face. Your Grand Master, don't tell me it's Tang Xiu? Upstairs. Standing by the windows on the second floor, Tang Xiu spoke with a tone full of indifference. Joyous Palace Saintess looked up at his indifferent expression and then glanced at Moao's group in the courtyard. She hesitated for a while but then finally decided to go upstairs. What do you want? You must stay here from this moment on and wait for the arrival of the Buddhist sect, Tang Xiu said indifferently. I hope you can stay honest and follow them if they're willing to bring you back to China, but you can expect that I'll spare your life if they're not willing. I must return to the Joyous Palace. The saintess retorted with a slightly indignant tone. Can you still go back, huh? Asked Tang Xiu. She fell into silence. She knew that Tang Xiu was right. Could she still be able to go back? It was Tangin who rescued her when she ran away. Outsiders may not be aware of Tang Xiu's identity, but Ki Kitagawa knew it clearly. Once that man spread the news that she was related to some Chinese cultivators, it was very likely that the over-suspicious palace master would hold some bad intentions towards her. What should I do? Must I stay here and be at their mercy? But where can I go? Once the victor of the battle between the Joyous Palace and Japan's authority was determined, it was likely that she would be their first target. Unless she could escape from Japan as quickly as possible, she would be captured by either the Joyous Palace or this Japanese agency. For a time, she fell in a dilemma. Tang Xiu turned around again and headed to the sofa in the room. After taking a seat, he added, I'm sure you're already aware of what kind of fate you'll be facing. The Joyous Palace Master sees you as nothing but a furnace, and when the time is ripe, he'll use you and send you to your death. I always held the belief that everyone must hold their own destiny in their hands. Hence, you gotta choose and think well on the road ahead of you. Having said that, his fingers moved and Kawako quickly appeared in front of him. While pointing to Kawako, Tang Xiu indifferently said, If I'm not mistaken, you should know her too, right? The saintess shot a deep look at Kawako and silently nodded. Then, she said, the new matriarch of House Yamamoto, and the young master of the North Star One-Blade School. Had it not been for the palace master's command, Kawako Yamamoto would have been the North Star One-Blade Schoolmaster already. That's all correct, but did you know her 2 years ago? Asked Tang Xiu. No, Gongwan shook her head. She was a nobody, but in less than 2 years, she has now become the head of House Yamamoto and the future schoolmaster of North Star One-Blade Style, said Tang Xiu with a light smile. Why do you think she can do these feats while also having her present strength? It was all your merits, Gongwan replied. True. Kawako was willing to follow me then, so I naturally bestowed her the strength she needed to be a hegemon here. I've never been a miser when it comes to my subordinates. Do you understand what I mean? I understand. But Miyagi once taught me that I must clearly remind myself that no matter what happens, whenever and wherever, I must not lose the falcon until I see the hare, said Gongwan. Is that so? Tang Xiu looked for a pen and paper and spent a little over 10 minutes to compile a Buddhist cultivation art. He then took out 2 jade bottles and placed them in front of Gongwan, lightly saying, What you see before you are a Buddhist cultivation technique which can take you to ascend to the Buddhist realm someday, if you can also obtain a massive number of cultivation resources to assist you. As for those 2 jade bottles, each separately contains 2 essence amassing pills and blood seizing pills. Gongwan's eyes contracted with disbelief in them. She shook her head and said, That's just impossible. Miyagi himself once said that it's impossible to have the complete cultivation technique to ascend to the Buddhist realm. It's also the main reason why he has been stranded in the Buddhist master stage, All this while since he doesn't have the following cultivation manual and thus, can only do a bit of experiment to create some. It's all there. You'll know it after you read it, said Tang Xiu. However, I advise you to think clearly before reading it. Once you read and cultivate to the point that you can really ascend to the Buddhist realm, you'll have no other choice but to follow me, unless you want to die. The woman gritted her teeth. But she eventually reached out to pick up the Buddhist cultivation manual. She spent 2 hours reading the whole content and slightly trembled afterward. A tempestuous storm flooded her whole being and the shock she felt was extremely hard to describe. That's right. She may have an insignificant cultivation level at the present, but she could tell whether this was a genuine or a fake Buddhist cultivation technique and what stage one could achieve with it. It was all true. Gongwan reluctantly put down the cultivation manual. She now took the 2 pill bottles and asked, I've heard of the essence amassing pill, which is said to be a great elixir in the cultivation world. But it's also said that the concocting method has been lost, so I didn't expect you to have it. But, what pill is this blood-seizing pill though? What effect does it bring? The blood-seizing pill is the remedy for physique and constitution refinement. I know you have a good cultivation level, but your physique and constitution are awful, which is the chief cause that affects your progress. Taking 2 blood-seizing pills will make your physique stronger by at least 2 times. Gasp. Gongwan couldn't help but gasp. Double the strength? I indeed lack in the physique and constitution refinement since Miyagi never permits me to practice any secret art or other means to temper my physique. That's the reason my physical strength is even worse than the other lower disciples of Joyous Palace. However, even if her physical strength was very poor, it had, nonetheless, reached quite a fearsome degree. Yet, 2 blood-seizing pills could double her physical strength? That was simply a very terrifying effect. Tang Xiu lifted a leg and placed it atop the other. He lit up a cigarette again and slowly drew the smoke in and out, waiting for Gongwan's reply. He wanted her to be his subordinate as he had been devising a plan. On the one hand, it was because of her constitution, while the other one was the fact that she could offer some assistance later. For instance, the campaign to eradicate the Joyous Palace. Another instance was, he could plant a nail in the Buddhist realm once she ascended there. After he ascended to the immortal world in the future, it would be inevitable that he would have some dealings with those in the Buddhist realm, thus planting his agent there was necessary. Finally, Gongwan glanced at Kawako, then a firm expression appeared on her face as she seriously said, I promise you. Tang Xiu gave a thumbs up and praised. Those who understand the situation are smart and outstanding. You bumped into me, that's the great chance you've ever had in your life. All right, I'll have a trial set for you and you'll be qualified to be a disciple of my Tang sect if you pass it. What trial? Gongwan seemed to have guessed it, but she still asked. I'm going to uproot the Joyous Palace and kill the palace master. Tang Xiu slowly explained, but this is just merely the first step, whereas the second will be to destroy all the experts under General Fukuda's flag. Do you have enmity with them or something? What exactly is your purpose for doing this? Asked Gongwan. Tang Xiu pointed to Kawako and lightly said, she needs to be the supreme existence in the whole of Japan. Her every word and deeds will determine the fate, the rise, and fall of this country. Gongwan couldn't help but shudder as she was terrified by Tang Xiu's words and how big his ambition was. He actually wanted to control the whole of Japan. Sect Master. Gongwan respectfully bowed to Tang Xiu. No. You are not yet qualified to address me that way for now, unless the Joyous Palace and the entire force of General Fukuda have been destroyed. Tang Xiu shook his head. Before then, you will call me boss. Understood, boss. She respectfully replied, but after having spoken that, she hesitated. Then, she asked, but boss, do you really want to kill the Joyous Palace master? Can you? Tang Xiu interrupted her. I don't have any mortal enmity with the Joyous Palace Master whatsoever. There's never been any reason for me to kill him, but he's a Buddhist sex renegade, a remnant. Even if I don't kill him, those Buddhist sect people will likely arrive soon and he's as good as dead already. The Buddhist sect? Gongwan fell into silence. She had long known about the deep enmity between Miyagi and the Buddhist sect, but little did she expect that the man turned out to be a remnant of the Buddhist sect's renegades in China. Tang Xiu got up and led Kawako Yamamoto and Gong Yen to the first floor of the courtyard. After seeing the kneeling Tang in there, he lightly said, "This is your first disobedience. I don't want to have a second one." Understood. Tang An loosened up. She knew that the punishment was now just a thing of the past. "Anyway, I need to know the situation over there," added Tang Xiu. "Kawako, change your appearance again and head over there with your men to inquire about the news." Receiving order. Kawako replied curtly and left the courtyard quickly. "And you, Tang An? If the battle over there is over already and whoever the victor is, the present situation in the capital will be very fragile and tumultuous even with the slightest disturbance. Kawako may have changed her looks, but some observant people will likely keep her on tabs. You're to follow her and take her away immediately should any peculiar circumstances occur." "Consider it done," replied Tang An respectfully. After Tang An left, Mo strode lightly to Tang Xiu's side and whispered, "Have you forgotten one thing, Sect Master?" "What is it, though?" asked Tang Xiu. "If I remember correctly, you seem to have stuffed your cell phone in your interspatial ring before," said Mo. Tang Xiu stared blankly for a moment. He suddenly remembered that he was still waiting for the call from the Buddhist sect people. After taking out the cell phone in his interspatial, he checked it out and only found a short text from Kong Xia. "Boss, please call back immediately after you read this." Chapter 1172, Deadly Cards. After reading the text from Kong Xia, Tang Xiu knew she was facing something important. Given her personality, she wouldn't have easily contacted him if the issue was something she could handle. "You've been looking for me, Kong Xia? You finally called, boss. Anyway, I got two things to report." Kong Xia's happy voice transmitted from the phone. "What issue is it?" asked Tang Xiu. "The first one is about business people from 36 countries all over the world. We got a total of 470 company directors, all of whom have gathered in Star City, hoping to obtain the distribution rights of our products. I've assigned some people to analyze the portfolios of their companies and the details should be on my desk in a week, which I'm going to review and decide which company's directors to contact. You gave me the base rule previously to only pick one distributor for each country. That means only 36 representatives will be selected in the end. However, I've estimated that more group companies' leaders overseas will be coming in the next week. That's why I'm hoping that you can come back to Star City to preside over the event." Tang Xiu gave it a thought for a moment and then seriously said, "This issue is quite important, indeed. I'll try to head home as soon as possible, but before that, release the press conference that the magnificent Tang Corporation will announce the list of each country's distributor next month, whereas the companies who would like to cooperate with our company must submit a letter of intent to our office. Emphasize it that the magnificent Tang Corporation will ignore any overseas group company who come to visit us directly." "When are you coming back, then?" asked Kong Xia. "I may not be able to come back for a while." Tang Xiu forced a smile and replied, "I'm in Japan now and things I've been dealing with are not over yet. But rest assured, I'll be able to solve it in a month at most, then I'll return to Star City directly." "I see." Kong Xia replied and continued, "The second matter is about the new metro in Star City. It's been progressing smoothly, but we got so many buyers from all over the country that we are unable to meet the demands even if the second phase has been fully developed. Another issue worth noting is about Star City's second-in-command. He came to see me and Long Hanwen a few days ago, hoping that we can hoard all the houses there. Tang Xiu furrowed his brows and asked, "What's your take on this one?" "We still have a lot of properties under our control at the present, so I think we can sell them all," said Kong Xia. "But our company is still listed at the top priority list due to the advance order of the second phase, which means that we can stock up lots of properties in the second phase even though all the properties of the first phase are all sold out. The same can be said for the third, the fourth, and the subsequent phases in the future. Regardless, we can use the difference in earning and take the median price to earn a lot of revenue." "What about Long Hanwen's opinion?" asked Tang Xiu. "Similar to mine, more or less," Kong Xia replied. "But he said he wants to ask your opinion first. If you agree that our company will sell all the properties in the first phase, the Long Group will also follow suit and sell all the real estate they have in stock. If so, then sell them all." Tang Xiu decided. "What I care about most at this time is how much money can we withdraw in a short time once all the properties are sold. Anyhow, how much funds are available for use now, though?" "About 60 billion, answered Kong Xia. Tang Xiu pondered for a moment and wryly smiled. "That's a bit few." "What do you need it for, though?" asked Kong Xia. "I recently discovered that there are so many cultivators in the world. If by chance those major forces continue to expand their strengths in the future, it's very likely we'll need to hoard more cultivation resources. That's why I need a massive number of funds to purchase these resources and snatch them from those major forces all over the world. At the very least, Tang sect will need to hoard cultivation resources enough for all disciples to consume for 20 years. Didn't you set up those 2 islands in the South China Sea for this purpose, though?" asked Kong Xia hurriedly. "The resources from them are not enough?" "Far from enough." Tang Xiu wryly smiled and continued, "The number of cultivation resources that can be provided by those 2 sites is insignificant compared to the number of resources needed by all Tang sect's disciples to consume in the future." Kong Xia fell into silence for about 2 minutes. Then, she suddenly said, "Well, we can actually get a massive amount of funds in a short time." "You can make it happen?" "How much can you get?" asked Tang Xiu quickly with a slightly shifted expression. "It's from the distributor rights for our company's products. We can demand advance payment for the agency rights. The total sum approximately exceeds 100 billion and will likely earn more if we are to sell each product separately." "Distributor rights fee and advance payment?" Tang Xiu's eyes instantly shone. He happily patted his own thigh and said, "Kong Xia, once you've sold all the properties of the new metro we've stocked up, immediately transfer 50 billion yuan to my account." "Copy that." Kong Xiu replied with a nod. The conversation went on for a long while before Tang Xiu hung up. He didn't stuff his cell phone to the interspatial ring this time but put it in his pocket. He previously asked Miao Wendong to get in touch with the Buddhist sect's people, and the said people may have already on the way here and they would definitely call him when they came to Japan. Huh? I missed something. He suddenly realized something and immediately took out his cell phone and dialed Miao Wentong's number. A huge incident just happened in Japan and the whole country was very likely in turmoil. Those people from China's Buddhist sect would definitely be standing out when they arrived in Japan and thus would be noticed by the joyous palace and the authority of this country in a short time. Should it happen at that time, although he was there to help them, he would have a hard time shaking off the tracking of any interested party. It would prove very difficult for either he or those Buddhist sect's people to take any actions. "Yo, what's up, brother Tang?" Miao Wentong's voice came out of the phone. "Have you met with those Buddhist sect's people, brother Miao?" asked Tang Xiu directly.
"Yeah,
I have met them and they have set off already. They spent some money to join a tour group and left by a boat," said Miao Wendong smilingly. "You mean, those Buddhist sect's people are already on the sea to Japan?" asked Tang Xiu hurriedly.
"Yeah,"
Miao Wendong replied. "Hurry up and give the contact number of those Buddhist monks," asked Tang Xiu. "Japan is quite chaotic at the present and some peculiar changes will definitely happen when they come here." That's why I have to get in touch with them fast. Miao Wendong was stunned and wryly smiled. You should have told me that earlier, Brother Tang. I don't have the cell number of any of them, but I did give them yours. I also told them to contact you once they arrive in Japan. Tang Xiu was silent for a while and then said, do you know the name of the tour group they are traveling with? Help me find it out and tell me before they arrive in Japan. No prob. Miao Wendong curtly replied and immediately hang up. After half an hour passed, Tang Xiu received a text from Miao Wendong. After reading it, he immediately summoned Shui Sha and He Xiong, saying, you both are to head over to the Taiga port. Be sure to enter a liner before it is docked. Find some Buddhist monks there and be very careful when you escort them here. Can you do it? We can do it. Both men exchanged looks and firmly nodded. As Shui Sha and He Xiong left, Tang Xiu silently thought about how to settle these Buddhist monks. The situation in Japan was quite chaotic and now was not the best time for the Buddhist sect to actively hit the Joyous Palace and destroy it completely. The reason being was due to General Fukuda, who absolutely wouldn't stay idly by. Soon after, Kawako came back after gathering intel from the outside. Tang Xiu fell into silence when she reported the result of the battle between the Joyous Palace and Japan's authority. The Joyous Palace had lost. He had already guessed it, yet he still felt a pity somehow. It was because the Joyous Palace master was likely to choose to immediately stay low after such a heavy blow. He may also opt to move the Joyous Palace to some other safe location. Gongwan. Tang Xiu slowly raised his head and transmitted his voice to Gongwan's ear on the first floor. Shortly after, Gongwan appeared before him and respectfully said, do you have any instructions for me, boss? I just received news that the Joyous Palace has been defeated in that battle, said Tang Xiu lightly. Certainly, the failure itself is a given considering this place is General Fukuda's turf. The defeat of the Joyous Palace, however, is only the force it has in the capital. That's why I called you here. Expression turning dark, Gongwan inquired. What would you like me to say? You've been in the Joyous Palace for so long, so you should know it inside out. Do you think they will hide like a turtle due to this fiasco? Absolutely not, replied Gongwan categorically. Why so sure? Tang Xiu raised his brows and asked in surprise. You don't know him, nor do you know his power and horror. Be it those mistresses or the 72 chess pieces, they are just part of the force revealed to the outside world. Unlike outsiders who may not be aware of it, I know that he has other deadly cards at hand. For instance, asked Tang Xiu curiously. The woman hesitated for a while and finally said slowly, for instance, the 4 Vajra guardian deities, 18 Arhats, or the Buddha Shadows squad. I understand the 4 Vajra guardian deities and 18 Arhats, but what is this Buddha Shadows squad? Asked Tang Xiu with knitted brows. It's the name of his personal guard he has trained to help him assassinate all his enemies, answered Gongwan. But there's no need to ask me anything else about them as I know not the specific details either. I'll ask no further since what you know is also limited. Tang Xiu stood up and said, but my guess is, he has been guarding against the Buddhist sect in China all these years, so those experts he has trained in secret should be his preparation to deal with the Buddhist sect. Anyway, let's head off and meet some people. Chapter 1173, The Week. Gongwan hesitated and then asked, are you going to fetch the people from the Buddhist sect? That's right. Tang Xiu nodded. I chose to follow you, so I believe you won't harm me, said Gongwan. But some people will recognize me if I leave with you like this. We can expect lots of troubles should it happen. Tang Xiu smiled and manipulated the changes to his facial muscles. Soon after, his appearance was different from his previous look. Unless those who saw him were his close people, it was impossible to recognize him. Afterward, Tang Xiu taught this facial morphing technique to Gongwan. A few minutes later, the two people left the courtyard with completely changed appearances. The duo, however, wore masks and caps so as not to alert Kawako's people in the courtyard. "Where's Tangin?" Tang Shou asked while looking at Tang Guang, who approached him. "She's afraid that Shui Sha and He Xiong would run into some mishaps, so she tagged along," answered Tang Guang. In the nearby alley, 7 tattooed youths with baseball bats surrounded and beat a man and a woman, whereas a red-bleached young man in black leather coat and wearing earrings stood still, staring at the sky, unaware that a lit cigarette between his fingers was about to burn out. "Don't beat us, I beg you. I'll pay back the money, please give me another 3 days. I'll give the cash and interest to you. Please." The beaten man desperately hugged the woman, using her body to block the beatings from the baseball bat for him. "Very well." The red-haired youth flicked the cigarette butt. As the other 7 youths made way for him, he slowly walked over to the beaten couple. He kicked the woman to the side and then spoke apathetically, "Paying debt is just a natural principle. But this is the 4th time you ask for a 3-day extension. Do you think I still have to believe in you or what?" The man with a bruised face struggled to stand up. He knelt before the red-haired youth and hurriedly pleaded. "It was just necessary. I had to. I already paid a part of the loan before, but the interest you set was too high. I just can't afford that much at once." "That's your business, not mine." The red-haired youth sneered. The man knelt on the ground with a struggling look on his face. After seeing the young man drew a sharp dagger from his waist, he finally cried, "Hidari Zujuan, please give me 3 more days and I'll make sure to get your money. I'll give you my wife as collateral. She can serve you for 3 days and I'll have the money in 3 days to give you even if I must resort to robbing and stealing." What do you think? Despair was evident on the slumped woman's face. The beatings were severe and caused her serious injuries, and the words of her own husband made it worse, causing her to spurt out a mouthful of blood. The red-haired youth shot her a look and apathetically said, "Given how determined you are, you got another 3 days. But I won't touch your woman even though I want this celebrity to serve me. But if you don't give me back my money 3 days later, I'll K your wife and then sell her to the red light district. She can make money by serving the guests for me. Of course, I can still permit her to continue her filming career. Either way, I got my own way for a lucrative business that can make money for me." Okay. I'll do as you say." The man stopped weeping and desperately nodded numerous times. Tens of meters away from the alleyway, Tang Xiu and Gong Wan quietly stood there. They had seen everything from the moment the couple was beaten until the conclusion of the negotiation between that red-haired youth and the man. Despite being an experienced man, killing intent birthed in Tang Xiu's heart, yet it was not aimed at the red-haired youth, but the man. He just used his wife to pay off his own debt? This creature doesn't deserve to call himself a man. He's not worthy of being one and shouldn't even live in this world. There was no need to guess more for Tang Xiu, as he could tell that this man would never take care of his wife's well-being, whether she was alive or dead later. He would never come back with the money he owed 3 days later either. What do you think? Tang Xiu shot a look at Gong Wan and indifferently probed. Looking unperturbed, Gong Wan shook her head and said, "I just think that woman is a bit pitiful to have such a poor life and marry such a man. An ending that is already doomed to happen. Certainly, those who live in this world must keep reminding themselves that they must adapt to the society, where the weak will stand as easy prey to the strong. It's just the rule either in the bustling cities or in the wilderness." Somehow, a pang of regret struck Tang Xiu for asking Gong Wan the question. Her answer was like asking to some inhuman swine. But then again, he also inwardly sighed after recalling the living environment she had been through. He now realized he couldn't regard this woman as a trusted confidant in the future even if she followed and worked for him. "Let's just go." Tang Xiu paced to the front. Gong Wan followed him behind and whispered, "You want to help them?" Not them, only the woman, said Tang Xiu faintly. This is just your everyday occurrence, mind you. You can bump into poor women literally everywhere. You can't just help everyone. Tang Xiu's pace came to a halt and his eyes fixedly stared at her as he spoke in a deep voice. I'm neither a saint nor a god and naturally, I can't help everyone. But I got the ability and am willing to help any poor soul I happen to run into. The Chinese have an old adage which says that humans can help each other when the road is rough. As in limited righteousness of a gentleman, huh? Asked Gong Wan. Tang Xiu turned around and paced forward again. That's too narrow of an address. I just have a good intention and use it to save the poor souls I bump into. Gong Wan, I don't care what environment you used to live in before, nor do I care about your feelings now. But I'll make you remember one thing today. You need a very strong state of mind and heart if you want to reach further in cultivation. But conscience and some bits of virtuous mind are the bottom lines for those who are under my lead. Benevolent mind? Tang Xiu's word kept echoing in her heart. Prior to this, she only understood the principle that cultivation was like sailing your boat against the torrential current, and one would definitely be left behind if they didn't advance. It was all the reason why she spent so much of her time in cultivation. Even when she met with injustice, she used a set of criteria to cope with the impact of the environment. She had always regarded that the world was a place where humans devoured their own kind and thus, she might die in the hands of others in the future if her cultivation was too low. Tang Xiu then came to the front of this bunch of street gangsters. Eyes sweeping over the woman's teary face who was now currently wiping off the blood stain of her mouth, he then looked at the red-haired youth and lightly said, "Can you let her go on the account of my face?" The woman looked up. Tears covered her eyes, but she could still see the masked Tang Xiu through the faint tears. The red-haired youth squinted and pulled out a cigarette and lit it up. He took in some smoke in deeply and puffed it out as he asked with an ugly expression, "Those who stick their noses and meddle in others' business usually end up tragic, mister. You should know that. You want to stick your nose here, are you sure you can deal with the aftermath?" "I'm a busy man, but I happen to bump into you, so I'll take it on," said Tang Xiu. "I don't care if that man owes you money or something else, but it's got nothing to do with the woman. I don't give damn care if you take this man off or kill him." The man was immediately furious after hearing his remarks and violently yelled, "Who the F***K are you and where the hell did you come from, asshole? Scram. This is my G business and my responsibility." The killing intention in Tang Xiu's heart got more intense, but he still ignored him. He kept looking at the red-haired youth and said, "Street words say someone is responsible for every grievance and every debt has its own debtor. No need to involve a third party in the business. That man owes you the money, yet he paid it off with his woman? Don't you think it's way too excessive? Even if you're a gangster and even a member of some underground force, you should also be aware of our world's custom." The red-haired youth took some more puffs and replied in similarly fluent English, "Just from what you said and the fact you make me stand here, I want you to leave. And lastly, let me tell you something, your words would have made me let her go had it been a few years back. But now, only money matters to me, nothing else. Just leave." "How much is it?" asked Tang Xiu. The red-haired youth shot him a surprised look and slowly sized up Tang Xiu from head to toe, asking, "Do you want to pay it for them, by chance?" "How much?" asked Tang Xiu again. 10 million, answered the youth. "In Japanese yen?" asked Tang Xiu lightly. "You got it." The youth nodded. Scornfully looking at the suspicious man, Tang Xiu sneered. "What a loser you are. Just 10 million yen or 100 grand US, yet you can even sell your wife for that? You're really trash, a kind of garbage that wastes Earth's resources. You can just hurry up and find a place to commit harakiri." Having said that, he looked back at the red-haired youth and indifferently said, "I'll give you 200 grand if you dare kill this trash for me." "Fine. A chilling light flashed in the youth's eyes. The moment his voice faded away, he flicked the cigarette butt to the man's face and his sharp dagger flashed and stabbed the man's chest. Everything was done extremely fast and he instantly pulled out the dagger from the man's heart and directly slashed his neck. The killing was done in a neat and clean fashion. Tang Xiu narrowed his eyes and even released his spiritual sense. Through a deep observation, he realized how indifferent the youth was. There was not even a slight emotional fluctuation coming from him when he committed such a cruel murder. What a good seed for an assassin! Tang Xiu exclaimed inwardly and asked, "Do you have a master or an employer?" "A master?" The red-haired youth was shaken inwardly. As though realizing something, he turned to look at the 7 other youths and said, "Take the body away and pay attention not to be discovered by anyone. Quickly throw it into the sea and spare me the troubles later." "Copy that." The 7 youths were obviously of the same breed. They quickly carried the dead body away and entered the van in the alley as they quickly left. Chapter 1174, Unexpected Gains. Afterward, the red-haired youth shot a serious look at Tang Xiu and said, "Got no master, but a boss, jobs and money related." Tang Xiu's interest was piqued and he asked again, "You know something else too, don't you?" "I overheard something from the Black Wolf Hall's master, Masa Osaka, when he got drunk." "It was a name," said the red-haired youth. "Care to share it?" asked Tang Xiu seriously. "Joyous Palace," answered the youth. He then pulled out a black handkerchief and wiped the dagger. After putting it back into his waist, he said, "I've always wanted to make myself stronger. I don't want to have muzzles pointed at my head, nor do I want to see my relatives killed before my eyes." "You got a feud?" asked Tang Xiu. "My enemies are dead already," he replied in a cold voice. "Great. That's not bad." Tang Xiu applauded. "You're not born with innate traits to kill, but rather had it awakened due to the stimuli. How about becoming my underling? That is if you want it." The red-haired youth slightly trembled. He shot a deep look at Tang Xiu and asked, "Can you make me stronger?" "I can make you 100 times stronger than the current you in the next few years," said Tang Xiu. "Master." In a very simple fashion, the youth directly knelt in front of Tang Xiu. "You trust me just like that?" asked Tang Xiu with raised brows. "I don't, but I want to bet on you." The youth shook his head. Giving him a thumbs up, Tang Xiu praised him. "You're really out of the ordinary. But I like you, so you're now my subordinate starting today. Gong Wan, escort him back. Please take me in, too." The wretched-looking woman crawled up from the ground 7+ meters away staggeringly towards Tang Xiu. With a trembling body, she knelt and said, "I know not what it means to be stronger, but I only know that you've saved me. You just bought my life with your money and my life is yours for the rest of my life if you take me in." Tang Xiu was stunned and stared at her. Then, he squatted down to grab her wrist and checked her pulse. He found that she was only an ordinary woman without any signs of having any cultivation system whatsoever. Even her internal organs were seriously injured due to the severe beatings just now. "Do you want to follow me, too? You bought me, I'll work for you. I'd have ended up with a tragic fate if you didn't save me. I also know that you can make me very strong, so I no longer need to worry about relying on any men anymore." Tang Xiu was silent for a short while and then suddenly asked, "Do you dare to kill?" The woman hesitated. But shortly after, she firmly nodded and said, "I'll kill anyone you order me to." Tang Xiu turned to Gong Wan and asked her with a smile, "What do you think? Should I accept them?" "I wouldn't if it was me. They are just too appalling," said Gong Wan. Tang Xiu let out a mystifying and meaningful smile. He looked at the 2 kneeling people in front of him and nodded. "I accept you since it's your choice. I now bestow you a cultivation technique so as to make you stronger. Each of you will also receive a sum of money and some pills to assist your cultivation, But I'm giving you both half a month to sense the flow of qi or energy circulation in your body. I'll entrust you some missions and responsibility should you succeed in this trial, but if you fail to sense it, you both will only become one of the countless people who just work for me, but find yourself nearly impossible to get my recognition. May I ask what's the meaning of sensing the energy circulation? Asked the youth. It's described in the cultivation manual I taught you. Keep trying to sense the flow of energy in your body. When you can sense and circulate the energy in your system as well as being able to control it for a short time, that means you've succeeded, or failed otherwise, said Tang Xiu lightly. Tang Xiu took out his cell phone and dialed Tang Guang's number to call him over. After the man came, he left a few orders to him and then left with Gongwan. Before leaving, however, he learned the real name of the red-haired youth and the woman. The former was Omeda to Ando and the latter was Meina Nomura. Taiga Port. The sun had set course to the west horizon, but the port was still bustling and busy with all kinds of ships setting sail or mooring along with lots of people shuttling back and forth. Honk, honk. The sound of a ship's horn sounded from the distant sea as a luxury liner slowly sailed towards the port. Those standing in the harbor were unable to see that 5 speedboats were cruising at a constant speed as the liner as they approached it. However, some figures on 2 speedboats flickered and bolted extremely fast onto the luxury liner. A few minutes later, 2 sturdy men, Shui Sha and He Xiong, walked on the red-carpeted corridor on the 3rd-floor cabin of the liner. Both men exchanged glances with happy smiles and quickly strode to the end of the corridor. We're from the Tang sect. This He Xiong humbly seeks a meeting with the masters here. As He Xiong halted his pace, he released his own aura and spoke clearly. Creak. Creak. 9 cabin doors opened one after another. Eminent monks in Kasaya attire and each holding a stick walked out of their respective cabins. Jade Buddha observed He Xiong and Shueisha for a while and his brows were slightly furrowed immediately. He joined his palms and greeted them. Benefactor said you're from the Tang sect, may I see the sign of credential? He Xiong took out an elder token of the Tang sect and said, our sect master learned from Mr. Miao about the liner the honorable masters have taken a ride in, so he commanded us to rush over to escort you in advance. Japan is in a chaotic situation at the present, and be it the Joyous Palace people or the force under Japanese authority are on high alert and ready for battle. If all masters here were to enter Japan openly, you all would be discovered by anyone from these 2 forces, thus barring you from moving freely in Japan. Jade Buddha and Blackface Buddha exchanged glances and both spoke at the same time, we'll have to trouble you, then. Our speedboats are waiting at the stern. I'd like to ask the masters here to come with us, said He Xiong. Quickly after, the 5 speedboats pierced through the waves and disappeared into the distant sea after they left the luxury liner that kept sailing towards the port. After half an hour of cruising, they quickly docked at another small port tens of kilometers away. There was no liner or cargo ships docked here aside from several fishing boats and only a few people were seen in the port. Tang Xiu led Gong Wan and calmly stood on the shore while watching the 5 speedboats. As He Xiong and Shui Sha brought the 18 eminent monks of the Buddhist sect ashore, he quickly came forward to greet them with a smile. It's been quite laborious for you all, masters. Blackface Buddha slightly furrowed his brows as he observed Gong Wan behind Tang Xiu. He immediately looked at Tang Xiu and asked, may I know who this benefactor is? Tang Xiu lightly smiled and quickly changed back his facial muscles to the original. Then, he smilingly said, we haven't seen each other for some time. Have you been well, Master Blackface Buddha? Blackface Buddha looked happily surprised and joined his palms in a salute. It turns out to be Sect Master Tang. This monk has been well and sound. The others and I came to Japan this time due to you. So I'd like to thank Sect Master Tang as well for informing us about the remnants of Joyous Sect here. Tang Xiu waved and said, we're all straightforward people, so there's no need to hide anything, Blackface Buddha. To be honest, it was also mainly due to my selfishness. The remnants of the joyous sect have been similarly acting like cancer cells in Japan and have become a huge threat to my subordinates here. That's why I deemed it necessary to remove this cancer. Further, I also learned the deep enmity between the joyous sect and Buddhist sect, so I asked you to come here to help me. Sect Master Tang also has vassals in Japan? Blackface Buddha blurted out in surprise. Lacking on cultivation resources is just a natural occurrence for us, cultivators, while Japan is rich with these resources. It's just reasonable that I sent my people to gather cultivation resources here, said Tang Xiu smilingly. Blackface Buddha immediately understood and smilingly replied, Amit Ba. Sect Master Tang is still young yet very promising. I can expect to see the Tang sect shake the cultivation world in the future. This is truly a blessing for me and the rest to fight side by side with you this time. Let's spare ourselves from the pleasantries, shall we? I'd like to ask all the masters here to get on the bus, please. We've provided many clothes on the bus and I'd like the masters to get changed so we can avoid the eyes and ears of Joyous Palace and Japanese authority. Changing clothes? The 18 eminent monks exchanged looks and all of them suddenly wore strange expressions after He Xiong led them to the mid-sized bus, parked on the shore and saw the prepared fine clothes inside. Are we going to wear these clothes? Blackface Buddha looked at He Xiong and asked while pointing at the clothes on the seat. Time was too tight, so we could only prepare these clothes, master. I hope they are acceptable enough, and please refrain from refusing it. He Xiong explained. Amit Ba. In all honesty, each and every one of the 18 eminent monks was truly unwilling, yet they still cooperated and wore the clothes. The monks now were all covered in all brand new suit, tie, and leather shoes. He Xiong and Shui Sha also prepared hats and sunglasses for them. Tang Xiu and Gong Wan also followed and entered the bus. A happy smile suddenly sported on his face upon seeing the 18 eminent monks' new appearances and sighed as he spoke, Masters, let us all head to a safe place first. We'll then discuss how to deal with the Joyous Palace and my subordinate will provide you a brief explanation about them. Amit Ba. The 18 eminent monks joined their palms and nodded. And thus, the journey was filled with Gong Wan's explanation session about the Joyous Palace, but the result made all the 18 monks dumbfounded and shocked. This is unbelievable. Jade Buddha was the first to sober up and commented with a wry smile. It was a bit hard for me to accept, too. Tang Xiu sighed. I came to admit it after understanding some facts that these joyous sex remnants have indeed done unexpected things here. Also, I have met some of you back in the Himalayas and only now met the rest, and I believe it's just impossible for us to get rid of the Joyous Palace with just the strength of 18 people. Jade Buddha nodded and said, if Lady Benefactor's description is true, then we wouldn't be able to accomplish this mission indeed. However, Sect Master Tang has deep cultivation and unfathomable strength. Added those with your resourcefulness, I'm certain we can work together and remove this cancer. Chapter 1175, Preparing the Fuse for Explosion. Toshima Ward. Tang Xiu immediately assigned some people to prepare vegetarian meals the moment they arrived here and everyone entered a wide living room, after having a meal. Blackface Buddha and Jade Buddha, you both are two eminent monks of the Buddhist sect and your arrival in Japan is due to the mission to clean up your school, which is also our second cooperation. Gongwan has already briefed you about the Joyous Palace's situation here. I wonder if you have any good ideas? Tang Xiu took a sip of hot tea and then asked. May I know how many experts you've brought from Tang sect to Japan? Asked Blackface Buddha in a deep voice. Coming here secretly was not easy, so our number here is very few, less than 10 people to be exact. Tang Xiu shook his head and replied, however, my subordinate has been operating in Japan for a long time and we have quite a number of available manpower at the ready. Though most of them are not experts, the strongest among them are at the foundation establishment stage. But we have quite a number of them here, so they can also take part in the battle. Blackface Buddha shook his head and replied, "The number is still too few, way too few. It seems this monk must inform the sect to ask the Grand Abbot to dispatch another group of people. What about you, Sect Master Tang? Will your Tang sect also dispatch a number of exports to come here?" Tang Shou somehow felt disappointed, but when he saw Jade Buddha wearing a faint smile, his expression was slightly shifted and asked that monk, "What do you think, Jade Buddha?" Jade Buddha glanced at Blackface Buddha and calmly said, "Sometimes using too much force is not necessary for killing, as we can use our brain to work around it. The remnant of Joyous Sect, the one who calls himself Joyous Palace Master, has managed to operate in Japan for so many years. I believe he doesn't want to give up his foundation here, while the Japanese authority sees them as a thorn in their eyes. If anything, we can make use of the official force of this country to kill them first. They would then end up exchanging heavy blows against each other, and we can reap the benefits as the third party." Raising his thumbs up to him, Tang Shou praised. "Jade Buddha's idea happens to coincide with mine. Also, that mysterious official of Japan, General Fukuda, not only has trained lots of practitioners, but he has also been using living people for some cruel experiments to secretly form an army of genetic warriors. I assume that all the masters here are not aware of this term, so I'll explain it to you. Genetic warriors are those who have been injected with some beast's genes and thus inherit some of these beasts' traits and characteristics. Drawing an analogy to make it clearer, let's assume that someone was injected by cheetah genes. His speed and strength will increase tremendously, yet they will also turn berserk and cruel as a cheetah when fighting. Another instance is an injection with monkey genes. They will be very energetic, vigorous, fast, and also have sharp claws and teeth. All in all, they are like mutants." The smile on Jade Buddha's face froze and intense killing intent overflowed in his eyes after listening to Tang Shou's explanation. Then, he said in a deep voice, "Listening to your description, then they're no longer human, Sect Master Tang. They are no longer genuine human, indeed." Tang Shou nodded. The extremely savage beastly nature overcame them, yet their strengths are also remarkable. Most importantly, I once helped those from the State Department to wipe out certain biochemistry and genetic research lab, belonging to a certain force in China, from which I learned that such genetic research requires lots of living humans to experiment on. Allegedly, only about 10% survived in the early phase of the experiment. I know a certain state agency in Japan that runs such genetic labs." Kawako interjected all of a sudden. "House Yamamoto has many people in politics and some work for the government. It happens that some of them are in charge of the security work of these secret research labs. The report he told me said that several hundreds of people have died in the research at these labs. Damn. They deserve to be thrown into the Avicii hell." Both Jade Buddha and Blackface Buddha angrily blurted out. For Tang Shou himself, it was rather unexpected to him that Kawako would speak out. It was his original intention to drive the fury of these Buddhist sect monks toward this Japanese agency, but Kawako's interjection had a much better effect than what he had planned out. Without being noticed, he threw her a praising look and then solemnly said, "Two masters, I'm sure you are also aware that these Japanese have once committed sins and crimes in China in the past. Maybe you also experienced and witnessed that catastrophe then. I do admit that Japan still has many good people, but right now, some ruthless and inhuman people are holding the power here. The Japanese people will end up having a difficult time if we just let them off. Even likely, we can see the emergence of a massive army of genetic warriors in Japan. There's no guarantee they won't strike other countries and persecute its people with such a powerful force. While we're cleaning up our school, we might as well deal a heavy blow to this General Fukuda," said Blackface Buddha in a heavy tone. "At least, we must destroy their labs and those harmful genetic agents." Jade Buddha squinted his glittering eyes as he looked at Tang Shou and asked, "What's your take on this one, Sect Master Tang?" "My idea is similar to Blackface Buddha's," said Tang Shou. "Destroy the Joyous Palace completely and ruin the army of genetic warriors and General Fukuda's underlings. We can easily move and accomplish our purpose here as long as we have both of them locked up. The question now is, how can we accomplish it? Asked Jade Buddha. The Joyous Palace and the Japanese authority have just been engaged in a large skirmish a while ago, said Tang Xiu. The latter ended up the victor and the former suffered a huge loss. I'm sure both sides can't wait to decimate each other now, so we just need to instigate and incite them to make it explode. You seem to have devised a plan, Sect Master Tang, said Jade Buddha. The Buddhist sect may not bother to machinate such schemes and intrigues, though I myself think that schemes are also part of our wisdom. I guarantee we'll listen to your command in fighting them as long as your plan can get my approval. My plan is to assassinate some members of the Joyous Palace and some of General Fukuda's underlings, said Tang Xiu. We'll show ourselves as people from Japanese authority when killing the Joyous Palace members. Japan is now full of surging undercurrents and what we must do is to make it more chaotic, inciting their anger, and based on that, keep adding fuel to the flames, driving them to tear all decorum and go into a full-blown war that devours each other. If so, then we need accurate intel, Sect Master Tang, commented Jade Buddha. The information about the Joyous Palace shouldn't be difficult to gather. Isn't that right, Gong Wan? Said Tang Xiu. Gong Wan was silent for a few seconds before nodding without a word. Then, she said, give me some time, I'll deal with the intel on Joyous Palace. Well, since Gong Wan is willing to cooperate, we can expect to have the intel on Joyous Palace smoothly, said Tang Xiu smilingly. As for the underlings of General Fukuda, it's also easy to find them out. They are Japanese officials, to begin with. Further, they have just delivered heavy blows to the Joyous Palace. It's a turbulent time, so, as long as we are alert and pay more attention, it won't be difficult to find a few leads to them. However, there's one person that needs to be neutralized in advance. Who is it? Everyone in the hall looked curious. Ki Kitagawa. He's a Joyous Palace's renegade, while his true identity is someone from that Japanese State Department, said Tang Xiu. Afterward, everyone was engaged in the discussion and analysis for a long time and a rough operation plan was finally devised. The Joyous Palace was now in a bad state, so it was likely they wouldn't have time to pay attention to Kawako's issue. Therefore, whether it was House Yamamoto or the manpower under Kawako's control, all of them were ordered to spread out to various cities in Japan to conduct a secret investigation on the Joyous Palace, and that particular Armed Forces of Japan State Agency. A piece of information was like a snowflake that kept piling and interweaving in front of Tang Xiu and the rest. The rough planning framework was constantly being filled and becoming more detailed and complex. 2 days later. Deafening music filled a certain nightclub's hall in the capital as unceasing flashing multicolored lights decorated the scene. The dance floor was full of many men and women dancing crazily. Many addicts could be seen scattered in each corner, sipping or smoking their delicious stuff, while young waiters brought a plate of wine and fruit each and constantly shuttled back and forth in the rest area, but their vigilant eyes kept scanning the crowds around. Tang Xiu and Kawako, who had changed their appearances, looked for an empty table and finally found it. They leisurely took a seat and he called the waiter to order several beers and then asked Kawako with a smile, "Have you noticed those eyes around you, Kawako?" "Well, it seems that you can't stop the prying eyes of those wolves around you even though you're hiding most of your beauty. How about having a bet with me? Will someone come over and hit a conversation with you?" A smile sketched on the corner of Kawako's mouth. She never dared think that Sect Master would tease her one day and even praise her beauty. She did have such a thought that she was a peerless beauty and a rare belle in the world, but that pride of hers slowly faded away ever since she knew Tang Xiu and learned about the women around him. However, right at this moment, she saw Gong Wan. Despite the veil covering the latter's face, she could see her face clearly and was a little perturbed by her suffocating beauty. "Well, how about having a date once our work here is done since you think that I'm not bad, boss?" Kawako stared at Tang Xiu with a faint smile.
Ugh.
Tang Xiu's expression stiffened and he immediately forced out an awkward smile. "Well, the weather is really great tonight, it's just dark and windy, the best time for killing. I hope we got the right news about that big fish coming here tonight. Kawako chuckled at his response and was about to speak when someone approached her. The man decorated himself with a very expensive suit, neatly combed hair straight to the back, and slightly raised his sleeve to reveal a famous watch on his wrist. Care to dance with me, pretty? The middle-aged man was smiling, but his eyes lingered on Kawako's bosom. Kawako rolled her eyes at him and waved her hands as though she was driving a fly away. Just go back to where you come from and don't bother me. God. How come there are so many blind people these days? Can't they see I got a male partner next to me? You. The middle-aged man himself had an uncommon and extraordinary manner, but Kawako's remark made him furious and he loudly cursed. Bitch, do you know who I am?